Welcome to Athlon U, the greatest episode of the calendar year. My name is Braden Gall. You can get to me on the internet at Braden Gall.
And I'm Stephen Lassen. You can also get to me on the internet at all of your favorite, or I guess not imported social media sites, or whatever you want to consider them. You can get to me at athlonsports.com and read all my work there.
Just depends on how bad your week is going, which app you want to use, right? Like, how much do you hate yourself?
Yeah, the doom scroll factor, right?
Right. No, but you know what? We're gonna combat the doom scrolling with a long form conversation. That is our favorite episode. In fact, the people are clamoring for it, Stephen. I've been bombarded with requests. Is the episode going to happen? Are we going to do our dream road trip for 2025? If I could speak. Our dream road trip. 2025. We're doing it today. Happy 4th of July out there, everybody, this week. Everybody be safe this weekend. Please come back to us next week with all of your fingers and toes intact. Please be careful with the fireworks. We all love fireworks. Be careful. I sound like a dad. I know that. I'm just saying, be careful.
This is points of Braden's podcast that are going to be in my near future soon with our 1-year-old like running around like crazy. But this is a good time for the road trip, isn't it? Like 4th of July, yes. Everybody's traveling. You know, it's July, the calendars. You're starting to think a little bit more about football. So perfect timing.
Yes. And yes, my 8 and 7-year-old are obsessed with fireworks. It's only going to get worse. Because fireworks are awesome and they're fun. Just use responsibly. Okay? Please. That's all I ask. Okay, we're going to do our dream road trip. Do we need to lay out the rules? I guess we should. Which is, you get to pick any game you want to go to. There's no criteria. You can pick any game, any beauty's in the eye of the beholder. You get to go to whatever game you want to go to. The rules are you cannot see a team more than one time. That's kind of the only rule. That's it. You can't see somebody twice. You got to pick and choose when you use and watch and see the teams you like. It could be because you love the town that they're in. It could be because you love the matchup. It could be because it's an upset, because it's a rivalry, because you love the campus. It could be because it's a really big game. And Stephen, I have done this exercise now, I don't know, with you probably. How is this like? What are we, like the 5th annual, 6th annual, 7th annual? I don't even know what it is. Some years it feels more like counterculture selections where I go and I pick games that I just am really interested in because of a quarterback matchup or because of the city or because I really want to go to Pullman, as everyone does. There's all kinds of games that I've picked like that over the years. I did not feel like that's what happened this year. I felt like this year I sort of feel like a corporate sellout to some degree because there were so many big games and it lined up so well that I was very excited about seeing elite football teams play in elite football games.
I had a hard time deciding where I wanted Ohio State to go, because there's obviously like you get the opener with Texas and there's Penn State and there's, of course, the big one at the end of the season. So, yes, we've done this exercise for a couple of years now. It always feels like Ohio State's the one team that I kind of have to figure out where I want to slot them in. And that was the case this year, too, Braden. But I will also tell you, I was actually pleasantly surprised how fast this one came together. Normally, it is not easy for me to put together. I have to do like 2 or 3 versions of it, and then I feel good. This time, I did it in one take, so I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but also to your point, I try to remind myself it is beauty in the eye of the beholder. You can do a G5 only trip mixed in with a little high-profile game here or there. You could do, heavy Big 12, whatever you want. This is your road trip, so have fun. Let's get this. Let's fire up the Lassen Cruiser and get it going.
How many? I prefer airplanes. How many top 25 teams did you miss?
Most of the teams, like 19 through like 25, I did not get.
Yeah. I missed Ole Miss. I missed my alma mater, Tennessee. And I missed SMU. Those are the 3 I missed. I missed 3.
I was going to say, I think that's the same. I think I did not get to Texas Tech. I was hoping to get to like Texas Tech and Iowa State. I did not get to them.
Oh, come on. You don't think I'm going to get to see Iowa State? Come on.
They are your Cyclones. I will be a little disappointed if your Yellow Jackets are not involved in one of your selections. I did not pick the Yellow Jackets, unfortunately.
It might be the worst game on my schedule.
Oh, okay.
But they're in there, baby. They're in there. I think I might have missed Boise also, who's number 25 in our rankings, correct?
Oh yes, did not have
Yeah.
Boise, right?
I missed Boise, unfortunately. Really wanted the Boise Notre Dame game, but I missed my alma mater, so I was doing it fairly and objectively if my alma mater's not on there. So there you go. All right, I'll be fascinated because I felt the same way. I felt like the big games and the teams, I knew what I wanted to do, and it fell into place kind of quickly. And I thought, oh, that was way easier than I expected. And then I thought immediately, like, oh, everyone's going to hate my list because it's all a bunch of big games. But then I'm like, well, no, this is the year, 12-team playoff, wide open with no real true elite clear cut number one. This is sort of what these seasons are all about. And um, yeah, I'd be interested to see how many games we go to together. I'll be very interested. I think the number one decision you have to make is, and this is kind of the case most years, but I think more so this year, is the final week because the rivalry games this year are even bigger. Georgia Tech has never had this much expectation. I don't think Clemson, South Carolina has ever been a like number 3 versus number 8 potentially at the end of the year with a chance to go to the playoff on the line. There's just so much more. You got Texas A&M back now. There's so much more meat in week 14 than I expected. I think I really struggled, and I thought that was the deciding factor. Like if you go Michigan, Ohio State, do you go Auburn, Alabama? Do you go Clemson, South Carolina? Do you want to go a whole other host? I mean, Georgia Tech is a legitimately awesome game at the end of the year. So that's that more so than ever. Washington, Oregon is a great game. More so than ever, that is the number one most important week I think you got to settle on before you pick everything else.
I had some of that too. You know, I think when we've typically done this exercise, and I typically go to Ohio State, Michigan, and again, it was very much in consideration. I won't tip my hand just yet, but it does feel like you had to decide, and especially with so many high profile conference games too, like Texas and Georgia, you have Alabama, LSU, Alabama, Georgia. Like you got to, I made a list of the top teams in our rankings and then started to go down and check them off by getting them in the road trip, but also trying to kind of maximize the matchups. Cause like you mentioned Clemson gets LSU in the opener, but do you want to save Clemson for the end of the season? Do you want to save them for the trip to Louisville? You kind of have to decide with these top teams, like where you want to slot them in. And those are kind of like your markers to start the road trip. And then everything kind of falls into place. But I thought week 1, week 14, and then what do you do with like Ohio State, Texas, Georgia were kind of like my biggest decisions.
Yep. I think that's all fair. All right, you ready to get rolling? You want to throw? I guess you're driving, so you're driving like
Mm-hmm.
all week on the road, and I'm just sort of, I'll just meet you there and have a couple nights in the new location with my frequent flyer miles. So,
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. Week number 1. Where are you going?
I am taking my talents to South Beach. I am going to go see Notre Dame and Miami. I am fascinated by both teams. Notre Dame, I think, has a chance to be a national championship contender again. CJ Carr's first start, Carson Beck's first start. Obviously, there is a ton of interest for that Texas and Ohio State showdown, but we're going to save those two. We're going to go to South Beach and see the Fighting Irish and the Hurricanes.
Oh, that's so good. Catholics versus convicts. That's such
Yep.
a great game. Week 1 also so good this year. I know we say that every year, but I think it's even better this year than before. I am at. So how about this? Did anything from our other conference trips like impact your decision making? Because I did not see Texas and Ohio State in either of the other 2 trips. So when I sat down to do the national one, I was like, I think I want to be there.
I thought about that too. Yeah. Like
So
trying to be consistent but yeah.
I'm going to the shoe. I'm going to the shoe. I'm going Texas and Ohio State. And I think when you do a conference road trip, you have more flexibility to sort of pick and choose. You get 2 options for a team. Like you can kind of massage the matchups a little bit more. You know you're going to see a bunch of extra games inside of a conference, Big Ten or SEC. But this one, what happened is I settled on a different game for the final game of the season, and that gave me my first 2 games of the regular season. Is sort of how it happened. Also, Texas and Oklahoma would be a great one to go to, much like Michigan, Ohio State, and I did not. So
Yeah.
I'm at Texas and Ohio State. I think it's 1 versus 2 probably in the rankings. Not our rankings necessarily, but I think it's probably 1 versus 2. And that'll be Lee Corso's final game day, right?
Yeah. Kind of grew up with Lee Corso. Kind of sad to see him see this be the last game day for him, but should be a great atmosphere in
Yeah.
Columbus. Also, Arch, Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs. I mean, individual talent, you can't beat it on
It's the first 3
Yeah.
First 3 picks in the draft.
Right.
If Jeremiah Smith was eligible. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Week number 2. Where are you going?
I am going to see a massive non-conference showdown between Michigan and Oklahoma. We've talked about it all off season. John Mateer stepping in for Oklahoma at quarterback. Ben Arbuckle, see what this offense can do. What better way to go see them play one of the best defenses in the country in Michigan? Also, Bryce Underwood in his second start, what I presume. So, huge non-conference showdown. Norman, Oklahoma doesn't get much better. Give me Michigan at Oklahoma.
I'm joining you. I'm joining you in the outskirts of Oklahoma City. Going to be a lot of fun. I'm with you. You got the coaching element. Hopefully, we'll see. You got the new quarterbacks. How good are either of those two new quarterbacks? All the stuff you said. It's also one of those games, and I don't have it in front of me, Steven, but I'll when you start talking, I'll see if I can figure it out. I don't feel like Oklahoma and Michigan play very often, if at all, in the regular season. So I might look up their series, but it feels like such a great helmet game, no matter where they play this, and you don't get to see it very often. But I think more importantly, winner has a chance to catapult themselves into a very interesting season. Loser might be teetering the rest of the way, especially if you're Oklahoma and you lose at home.
Do you want to know the last time they actually played?
Oh, please tell me.
1976
Bowl
in the
game?
Orange Bowl. Yeah, 14-6. It was a high scoring affair.
Oh.
Oklahoma won. But I think we say this a lot during the regular season, like data collection, especially early in the season, and to have these two teams with the question marks and the quarterback opportunity to showcase how far along they are in week 2. I think if you're not just going to the game, like there's a huge just interest in what this game could mean for both teams.
Yeah.
Like we'll learn a lot about both teams in week 2, and that's kind of what interested me to go there and not see Michigan play Ohio State in the season opener, in the season finale, that is.
I feel like that since you're not taking Texas and Ohio State in week 1 and you're not taking Michigan, Ohio State, I feel like there's really only one top option left for the Buckeyes. So we'll see. And that's really more of a game about the other coach.
Yes.
So we'll get to that. Michigan and Oklahoma has just been on my I think it was on my Big Ten list, and I think it was on my SEC list as well. It is a priority. And it's not two like top 15 teams. They both could be ranked like 19 and 20 or whatever in this game. So ton of fun with that one, and just great matchup just in general. Helmet game. All right, week number 3.
I am going to stay. Well, I guess it's I'm going to go with kind of a rivalry theme here. I was going to say I was going to kind of like stay in the same like conference area, but remember Oklahoma and West Virginia are no longer in the Big 12. So we're going to go to Morgantown. We're going to go to see the backyard brawl between Pitt and West Virginia. Rich Rod, after what happened the last time when the infamous game that knocked West Virginia out of the national championship. So to see these two rivals, Rich Rod's kind of debut season at West Virginia again, see what Pitt looks like with Eli Holston and Desmond Reed being healthy. So give me the backyard brawl in week 3.
All right, no ranked teams in that game in the preseason Athlon rankings. No top 40 teams really in that matchup, but phenomenal matchup. Always great. This game has sort of grown on me. And it's not one I don't think I picked it for either ACC or SEC. But the more the summer has unfolded, and the more I feel like I'm learning about where these teams are going to be, the more and more I think Texas A&M and Notre Dame is just enormous. Because first of all, from a physicality standpoint, off the charts good football. If you like just old school line up and punch people in the face, like I guess that's a penalty in most sports, but not in football, I guess. Notre Dame and Texas A&M, great helmet matchup, great uniform matchup on the road, home and home after last year's second half where Notre Dame just physically outmuscled them. I think A&M is going to be pretty good. I think Notre Dame is definitely going to be good. You got the new quarterback for Notre Dame, the development of Marcel Reed for A&M. This game has more juice as the summer has gone along for me, and I am far more attracted to this game than I expect it to be. And as I was putting Notre Dame and A&M into these different slots and looking at where I could see them, these two are going to beat the tar out of each other in week number 3, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to be in South Bend with the Aggies and the Irish.
to use a term we used a little bit ago, like data collection, because I am fascinated to see Marcel Reed in that spot. Like the A&M's improved the receivers. They've second year of the offensive coordinator. They have everything they need to evaluate him now. So to go on the road, like can A&M do what Notre Dame did last season, which is go on the road and get that big victory. Also, if you like offensive line play, this is two of the best offensive line play in the country. So great offensive line, great uniforms, great setting in South Bend. We'll see if the Aggies can get revenge after last year's loss.
Yeah, gonna be a lot of fun. All right, week number 4. Where are you going?
I am going to see a Big 12 showdown between Arizona State at Baylor. I am fascinated by Baylor because of the way they closed last year, Sawyer Robertson, some of the potential for this team. Also, Arizona State is, of course, the defending Big 12 champion. So early in the season, week 4, if Dave Aranda's team can get a big win here, we start talking a little bit more about Baylor being a Big 12 front runner, even though I think kind of guys like you and me, we're on board with Baylor being in that top tier. And Arizona State, Sam Levitt, like I said, with Sawyer Robertson, it's a great quarterback matchup.
So Baylor's going to host Utah later in the year. They've got Kansas State, Arizona State. They got Auburn at home. That's a really good home schedule for you season ticket holders in Waco. I almost got I when I first did this, I had the Kansas State Baylor game in week number 6. I had that one locked in there because I'm with you on Baylor. I think we've talked about that enough this preseason that we both really like this Baylor team. Quarterback, defensive line, coach kind of reestablishing his identity, all that stuff. And I like the Arizona State road trip. I think that's a tough game for them. I think that's going to be. One of the things I've always done in this exercise is I like watching my favorites, conference championship contenders, and the teams that we predict to be at the top. I almost always want to find them on the road with a tough environment. It just leads to better and more interesting, football upsets, drama, etc. So I love that pick. I am going to a preseason top 20 matchup that I'm willing to bet you has never in the history of either school been a preseason top 20 matchup. Do you think you know where I'm going?
Is it Illinois at Indiana?
You got it, buddy.
Right. That was on my short list too.
I'm going Illinois, Fighting Illini at Indiana, the battle for Assembly Hall naming rights. And I look, and I will say this. I've been to games at both. I like going to Indiana better. I just like Bloomington better. I like the stadium a little bit more. The new, the Illinois stadium's is much improved over the years. I just like Bloomington and the Indiana stadium better. So the fact that this game was in Indiana also interesting to me. Again, just like I just said, I also think Indiana is the underdog, and Indiana has a better chance to pull the upset here because Illinois is on the road. So anytime you get these two together, it's always an interesting rivalry in basketball. Now it's a very high level, important Big Ten rivalry in football. I don't think Illinois, Indiana has ever been on either one of our road trips ever at any point.
No. Here's a little thing that surprises me that Indiana has won, I think, 4 out of the last 5 against Illinois. Guess it's not totally surprising given that Illinois has been up and down, but still, I think just given kind of where Indiana's been too. So to see that also, I know it's early in the season and I know it's early to be thinking about playoff, but if the season plays out like we project, those two teams are going to be fighting kind of neck and neck in the Big Ten for that spot right behind Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. So it suddenly could be a very important game just for positioning. And also, I think if you're Illinois trying to live up to the hype, Indiana trying to match what you did last season. And I think they can. I think that there's a good chance that they could be right there again. So we'll find out early with that game against Illinois.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I just think it's going to be rowdy, and I think both teams could be there at the end. I don't know if they're Big Ten championship teams, but the schedule, as we talked about last week, for Illinois sets up really nicely. I do think Indiana needs to take a like they all need to take a deep breath. I think Indiana is going to, an 8-4 season hypothetically would be a very, very good year, like normal Indiana football expectations. So I think let's pump the brakes a little bit on Indiana, but very, very good matchup. Excited to do it. So, and 2 top 20 teams that I'm seeing that are ranked. So Baylor not ranked. This is a competition between you and I to see who sees the most ranked teams.
I will say I like your call of Indiana and Illinois because that was like next on my list because I was trying to fit in the Illinois this year. Unfortunately, I did not get to see them, but I do have the Hoosiers on my list.
You're not seeing the Fighting Birds. Okay. All right. Week 5. Where are you going?
Speaking of Indiana, we're going to go see the Hoosiers at Iowa. I think this could be a really interesting kind of matchup here. You got Iowa's defense is a little bit in rebuild mode, but still think Phil Parker will get this group back to the top of the Big Ten. Fernando Mendoza and that Indiana offense. Here they go. Illinois, then a chance to play Iowa. So I wanted to get to Indiana, wanted to see Illinois. Probably last week's game was the best chance to get them both in the same field. But because I couldn't get them in Illinois and anywhere else, but Indiana at Iowa, it's a great Big Ten game.
I do think that because I got so many big games from every conference that I did miss a lot of like the charming upper middle class that I always normally really enjoy, which is like Baylor and Auburn and Nebraska and Iowa and like those teams. And I'm not going to see a lot of those teams this year because I focused heavily on the big matchups. And it kind of just happened. I didn't really do it on purpose. It just sort of happened. So Indiana at Iowa, always a good one. Indiana loses 2 in a row there, though. Illinois beats you at home, then you come back and you lose to Iowa on the road. Very plausible. The season could look very different by week 6 for Indiana. So just keep an eye on that. All right, this is Big Ten championship game rematch. Give me Oregon at Penn State. Show us what you're made of, James Franklin. Show us what you're made of, Happy Valley. Going to be crazy atmosphere. Going to be electric. I wanted to get to Happy Valley for this Penn State team, and I wanted to see them against one of the best of the best of the best. And I do think by week 5, you have to imagine that Oregon has gotten some pieces figured out, settled some things down. They've got a fairly manageable start to the season, and they'll be ready to go on the road against Oregon or against Penn State. And I'm trying to think, like, what was the biggest road game in the Big Ten last year? Because they hosted Ohio State, right? They beat Michigan on the road. Is that right? I'm pulling it up also. They played at Michigan and they won fairly. Michigan was kind of teetering there. But at UCLA, that's not even a Big Ten game. At Wisconsin, that was also a struggle. So two of the two true road games, both of which were unranked, Wisconsin and Michigan. This is going to be the first like major on the road at a Big Ten powerhouse who is also extremely good kind of matchup. And they struggled in both those games last year against Wisconsin, and then they kind of pulled away against Michigan, but they struggled against Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, again, it goes back to like early in the season. There's a lot at stake here. Obviously, for Penn State, they could get revenge from the Big Ten championship game. They could kind of make a statement in that, we'll see what happens with Texas and Ohio State. But if Penn State starts out hot, they just take care of business against Oregon. I think that sort of solidifies some of the preseason hype for Penn State. It also could tell us a lot about where Oregon is. I mean, this is an Oregon team that lost a lot from last year's team, but they are also reloading with a lot of talent too. So good kind of litmus test for this Oregon team early in the season.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I love contrast on a football field. I just always have. Like that's why Illinois, Indiana's like, don't love it. But Oregon and Penn State, the green and the blue, just such a great contrast. The white and the green or the white and the blue, just great contrast on the field. Let's hope Oregon doesn't do like all black or something.
It is a night game, so
I know.
You are going to be missing Alabama at Georgia that night too. So
I got YouTube TV for that. I'm fine.
Just have the device in hand.
No, I just get on the plane and I watch the game on the flight home. It's fine.
That's why you need the Lassen Cruiser. We're just going to drive up. We're going to watch all the games all day.
I do not want to be in an RV for 18 hours with you. That sounds awful. You sound great, but like that sounds awful. I'm 42 years old. I fly places now, Steven. Wild. All right, week 6. Where are you going?
Speaking of flights, we're gonna pick the most patriotic game we can since it is July 4th weekend. Air Force at Navy. Let's go. We got two of the battle there for the troops here on 4th of July. So looking forward to seeing this Navy team. Favorable schedule. Blake Horvath settled in at quarterback. I think they got a chance to be one of the top G5 teams in the country, and a very favorable schedule. If they can start picking up some wins, they got a chance to kind of be, I would say, the Army. Army did such a good job of getting to the top 25 last year. Navy could be that team this year.
I'm such a shill. I'm such a sellout. I didn't see any of the troops. I didn't see any G5 teams. It is exclusively big business for me. It is all big business this year. So that's a great one, though. I love the Commander-in-Chief trophy. It's super fun. So this is interesting. I had Kansas State at Baylor in this slot. And I was looking at my list going like, I'm not going to see Miami. And I looked and I went, wait a second. Because I did not prioritize Florida State at all. I really didn't. I was like, okay, Florida. If I see Florida State, fine. If not, no big deal. I'll track their chaos from a distance. It's fine. But then I looked at this week 6 and I just go, wait a second. I could see Miami on the road in a rivalry game against a Florida State team that should be better, and we should see a full Miami at this point of the season. I just was like, wait a second. That's where I'm going. I'm going to Tallahassee. I'm going to go party. I'm going to go party in Doak Campbell. Miami at Florida State in week number 6, and therefore I get to see Miami, a ranked team.
One of my thought processes as we were putting this exercise together was, once you start slotting in those teams, like Miami was one of them, like where do you want to see them? Because they don't play Clemson. There's some other opportunities there, but that Notre Dame game in the opener, but that took away the Florida State game. Clemson also coming up took away Clemson and North Carolina this week too. So, as excited as I am about going to like see Navy and Air Force, like there are some higher profile games, just the schedule kind of breaks certain ways some weeks where you have to go a little bit off the power conference path there, Braden.
Clemson and North Carolina was a priority for you? For just both the oldest coaching matchup in the history of college football.
Yeah, I mean, to go see what Bill Belichick's up to for 4 quarters, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not interested in that.
Here's a funny side note. So we talked about this like during the spring, that they did a spring whatever you want it is, and they didn't really have like any numbers on the players, and Belichick did no like media availability. Well, they are using social media to announce jersey numbers this week.
Ooh,
so
I like that.
So nice little use of social media there, Belichick.
I'm sure that was all his idea.
Jordan's maybe?
The Twitter savant that he is.
Right.
Well, his grandkids are very smart with the social media.
Yeah.
All right. Week 7, where are you going?
I am going to College Station to see the Florida Gators play the Texas A&M Aggies. So DJ Lagway taking on Texas A&M. We'll see if he's healthy. I'm 100% at that point of the year. Also, kind of a game of could be pretty important, I think, for playoff positioning or SEC positioning. I think Florida's got a chance if they pick up where they left off to be a contender. I think to your point on A&M, I think they could surprise some people. They got some tough road games against Notre Dame and Texas, but they've got a chance to build on last year. So I wanted to see Florida at Texas A&M in week number 7.
So you add 2 ranked teams on your list. You still have only seen 2 of the top 10 teams in the country on our list. I'm assuming you've backloaded your schedule.
This is a backloaded schedule. Yeah,
I hear you.
we got new starters to break in. We got
the
Alaskan Cruiser's got some new pieces. We're not sure this if it's going to run all the way.
This is Florida and A&M is a great game. It's a great game, and honestly, the one I remember the most was the one from 2020 when Florida and A&M both almost made the playoff, and they go on the road, and it was like a dramatic back and forth game. It was Kyle Trask versus Kellen Mond, and they were throwing it all over the place. Ton of fun. Probably the best A&M team of the last, since Manziel, basically. So that's a really good matchup and a great road test for Florida. I'm also going to the SEC, and I'm going to go South Carolina at LSU, which, if you think about it, is not like this marquee rivalry game for either team. Like South Carolina has all these other rivalries with Georgia and Tennessee, and South Carolina has one with Clemson, and then LSU has all these other rivalries with Texas A&M and Arkansas and Alabama, and all really good games. But this game is one that both fan bases still talk about from last year.
Right?
They still talk about like personal, like butt penalties and interceptions, and like we should have won that, and we should like South Carolina is pissed that they didn't win this game last year. I think both teams have eyes on the playoff. I think this is a really good quarterback matchup, and if South Carolina is legit, this is their first real test of the year because their schedule actually is like the Alaskan Cruiser, very easy to start, and then the last like 6 weeks are really difficult. And so this will be the first big moment where South Carolina is probably undefeated, and Lenore Sellers has to go on the road and beat a very, very good team, maybe ranked ahead of them. And if they can go on the road and win that game, watch out for South Carolina. And I mean that in like a could make a run in the playoff kind of team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If not, they're just a regular old South Carolina team.
Well, I think we'll learn a lot about LSU in this game as well too. I mean, they get the opener against Clemson, but how far has their defense improved since last season? I think it's a big part of their chase to get to the playoff this season is improved defense through the transfer portal, through the recruiting. You've got a new offensive line behind Garrett Nussmeier too. So there's a lot of new pieces at LSU. So it's a good opportunity to learn about both teams at this point. But if you look at the series history, I mean, South Carolina has not beaten LSU since 1994. Now, they haven't played every year because they weren't obviously in the same division, but it's been like, I think, 8 or 9 straight that either LSU won or there was a tie in 1995. So, been a while since South Carolina beat LSU.
Yeah, it has been. LSU will be far more tested at that point of the season, though.
Yes,
they will have played some big games. South Carolina will not have been tested at that point. All right, week number 8. Where are you going?
You're going to like this game. It is the Holy War. We are going to Provo to see Utah and BYU. Last year's game, very memorable for the way it ended. This rivalry is always awesome. So I had to get Utah on this list because I think there is a chance that they are undervalued in our preseason rankings for the Big 12. I would not be surprised if Kyle Whittingham is hoisting the Big 12 championship trophy come December.
Yep.
And just general intrigue for BYU. Obviously, there's questions about Jake Retzlaff and what they're going to be, but it's one of the best rivalries. And just after the way last year's game ended, I had to get to Provo for this one.
Yep. Hard to argue with that rivalry. I think it kind of speaks for itself. And talk about contrast on the field from a uniform standpoint.
Yeah.
Even when they go like full all blue and full all red, which I think looks silly, it is still good. It's still a good matchup on from a uniform standpoint. That is, you still got a lot of ranked teams. No ranked teams in that matchup either, Steve. I'm getting a little concerned for you. I'm not sure I've seen. Let's see. Look at my list here. I've got Florida State. That's the only team I've got on the list that's not ranked. I'm seeing nothing but just superstars this year, just superstar matchups. All right, I'm going to the Big 12 where 2 ranked teams are going to be playing in a potential Big 12 championship game preview. Texas Tech at Arizona State. It's not too hot yet by October, so like it's starting to cool down. Did I say yet? It's not. It's other way. It's not too cold yet, but it's also not. It's not hot. Give me Texas Tech at Arizona State. Quarterback battle. Terrible uniform matchup. Just terrible. Unless one of them goes all black, which is possible. One of them could go all black because we've seen that from Tech and we've seen that from Arizona State in the past. So hopefully Arizona State does something traditional and Texas Tech does like all white maybe. And maybe that'll be good. We'll see.
This game has the potential to just be very weird. Like, if you know what I mean, like these are 2 programs that have a potential to play some wacky and strange games. And also it could just be, I wouldn't say it's like old school Big 12 because Arizona State's got a good defense and Texas Tech hopes to, but this one could be like a 38-34 kind of fun. Hopefully it's played at like 10-15 Eastern time late at night. So we could get Big 12 after dark.
I love it. I have seen 15 ranked teams so far.
They're coming for me. Don't worry. I know you're worried, but the last
I'm counting. I count 7. You've seen 7 ranked teams. I've seen twice as many ranked teams as you. All right. Where are you going week 9?
So Braden is worried about ranked teams, where here's one of them, and it's a rivalry, which I love. I'm going to see Kansas State at Kansas. Kansas State, our Big 12. This is a great matchup. Kansas State, our Big 12 front runner in the big in our magazine. Kansas, I think, is going to rebound with Jalen Daniels. Would not bet against Lance Leipold to turn things around after last year's 5-7 season. So had to see Kansas State, wanted to see Kansas, and it worked out here in week 9.
No notes. I'll be there with you in Lawrence. We'll stay in Kansas City. But that's still only one ranked team. You have not seen Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, LSU, Oregon, Bama, and South Carolina yet. You have not seen any of them. Just want to point that out. No, I'm right there with you. It was Kansas State at Baylor or Kansas State at Kansas. And I went with Kansas, a rivalry game. Love it. Also, it gave me a chance to see Miami, Florida State. So I thought watching Kansas State on the road against an arch rival in state, that's all I need to say. So I'm right there with you. Kansas at Kansas State. at Kansas in week number 9.
Are you ready for some
Let's
ranked?
you better see some big games here, buddy.
Okay, well, here we go. Let's go with week number 10. I am going to start my avalanche of ranked matchups here. Penn State at Ohio State. I had a hard time not going to see Michigan and Ohio State this year. It seems like every year that's a staple for me when I do this exercise. But given the debate about Penn State and Ohio State in the Big Ten, and also everything surrounding it. Like, can James Franklin go on the road and get a big win? Drew Aller, what is his progression? Julian saying, so many things of the season kind of rest on how this game turns out. So I had to go see Penn State at Ohio State this year, and that is my selection for Week 10.
So what's funny is I'm giving you a hard time, but it's also very possible that all these games being ranked on the back end in your schedule in November just could make for extraordinary football.
Yeah.
So look, I'm giving you a hard time, but could be special. Could be special. Now, I would argue my pick is not that much different than Penn State and Ohio State. Unfortunately, it will not be played in Jacksonville this year. Or maybe fortunately. No one's ever been like, where do you want to go on vacation? Jacksonville. Said nobody. Georgia, Florida. I'm going Georgia, Florida. For the first time in a long time, I think they are equal. Like, there's a relatively equal shot at either team winning. For the first time in a long, long time. So as long as DJ Lagway is healthy, I think Florida and Georgia could actually be a very good football game, because even when Florida's not been good, this is like Texas, Oklahoma, or a variety of others. Like, it doesn't matter sometimes. They get up for the game. And if Lagway's fully healthy, is it possible that Florida is actually the better team going into this game?
I guess it's possible. I still think Georgia's going to be pretty salty. I would not, all of this offseason hype about Texas, and certainly we've played into that and everything else. I'm sure Kirby Smart has printed those articles out and has plastered all the facilities at Georgia about how they're getting no respect. And I mean, I'm sure some people will pick them to win the title. But my point is like, we're looking at Georgia with 7 returning starters, all these new faces, first time quarterback, and seeing Florida with the way they closed the season in Lagway and going, well, they maybe it's time. Remember, last year's game was actually pretty close until Lagway got hurt.
Yeah.
So to your point, I think it'll be a much more competitive game than it has been in recent years.
Yeah, I'm really looking for. It's funny, I was doing this and I look at the game and I'm just like, for the last few years, I have not ever considered this one. Like, Kirby Smart's been so dominant that it's just not been a thing that really was like interesting. But I looked at this one and I was kind of like, well, where am I going to see Georgia? I want to see them on the road. Okay, they're hosting. I don't think they're going to lose at Tennessee. They're hosting Ole Miss. They're okay. Texas and Bama are both big ones, but I was using them elsewhere. Where am I going to see them? Oh, wait a second. They're playing a playoff team potentially in DJ Lagway, and it's their arch rival, and it's a neutral site, and they could be evenly matched. Let's go Georgia, Florida. First time I've put them on there in a few years. So
agree.
I'm with Georgia, Florida. All right, you're catching up. You picked up 2 ranked teams, but I got 2 top 15ers there. See if you can gain some ground on me here.
The Last and Cruiser has 2 top 10 teams coming this week.
Auburn and Vanderbilt.
Well, that's a good one, though.
Never mind.
Anytime we can see Diego Pavia is a good week, but no Vanderbilt this week. We're going to LSU at Alabama. Considered LSU playing Clemson in the opener, Alabama in other spots too. But, to go back to kind of Penn State and Ohio State, not the same degree, but these are 2 teams that when you look at pretty much everybody's preseason predictions, they are kind of back-to-back or close. So pretty important for positioning within the SEC, for playoff. Also, by this point of the season, if LSU's defense is better and it goes on the road and plays well, means a lot. Alabama, Ty Simpson, we'll see what he looks like. So Alabama and LSU was an easy pick for me in week 14.
I'm going to go to 11. I'm going to go to a matchup with equal levels of prestige. Iowa State at TCU.
I love that call, actually.
No, I had to see Iowa State, and I love watching teams go on the road against teams that also are contenders, or at least we think could be very dangerous. And so my options were either BYU at Iowa State a couple weeks earlier, which could be an interesting game, but BYU I think could be trending in the wrong direction. I'm not sure. We'll see. But I just thought TCU, I like what they're doing. I think they could be sneaky good this year, and they're at home. Iowa State's going to have to go on the road and play a good game. I had to see Iowa State. I had to see my Cyclones. My Clones, there's a couple other teams here that are mine this year, and I've got them on the list. The only one I think that I don't have on the list of my teams is my Baylor Bears. I don't think my Baylor Bears are on my list, which is a big mistake by me, but it is what it is.
Iowa State has a great home schedule this year. I
Yeah,
mean,
they do.
to get Iowa, BYU, Arizona State, and Kansas all at home. I know it's hard to go back to back in the Big 12 to get back to the championship game, but that's a schedule that's tailor made for a run again.
Good for season ticket sales.
Yes,
That
for
is for
sure.
sure. All right. Well, LSU, Bama, slightly better than Iowa State, TCU. You picked up 2 ranked teams there. I only got the one. Where are you going now in week number 12?
Gonna pick up 2 more top 5 teams this week because
Oh,
I'm going to see what I think is a preview of the SEC championship game in Texas at Georgia.
about
Played
time.
twice last year. Georgia got the better of Texas both times. The second matchup was a lot closer than the first one. So by this point of the season, we'll have a much better idea of what Arch Manning is. So to see him go on the road to play Georgia and also to see if Texas has solved Georgia's defense, especially with all the new faces Georgia has, it was an easy pick for me.
3 straight top 10 matchups for you based on our preseason rankings. Look at all those cliche picks. You're more of a sellout than I am. Penn State, Ohio State, played out. LSU, Bama, so 2011. Texas and Georgia, neither matchup meant anything last year.
We had to sell some sponsorships on the last cruisers. So we had to sell high profile matchups here.
I am just panning your picks for the fun of it. That's look. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything about Texas and Georgia. Like they could be number 1 and 2 when they play. They could be the best two. They could be the best 2 teams in America right now today. They could both lose 2 games and not be the champion. It's just this season is going to be wild. That's all I want to say.
They could play 3 times this year. That's what a very, very strong possibility, I think.
All right. So you knocked out a couple of top 10 teams 3 weeks in a row. It's pretty impressive. Well done by you. I'm going to go Clemson at Louisville. Give me a top 10 team. Clemson at Louisville. I like these teams going on the road against quality competition. I would probably have Louisville ranked, but they're not. But they're 26th, which makes them very, very good. We think Louisville's a top 4 team in the ACC. They've got lots of opportunity to be very good again. Jeff Brom, Miller Moss, the whole deal, offense and defense. This is going to be, I think Louisville is very, very good at this point of the season. And I think hosting Clemson, that building is going to be nuts. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So give me Clemson at Louisville.
Also a Friday night game. And then Louisville turns around the following week and plays SMU. So just in terms of ACC title race, those 2 games loom very large for Louisville's hopes of getting back to the ACC title game.
Yep, absolutely. All right, where are you going in week 13? You're gonna catch me. You're gonna catch me here.
I am going to go out to the West Coast. It's an old Pac-12 game, but it's a Big Ten conference game now, and see USC at Oregon. Okay. A lot of intrigue for me in Oregon, but also by that point of the season, we'll see all the new faces, what they look like. Also USC, a team that's been kind of moving up my rankings all off season because I like what they're doing just off the field, but also what they did on the field and progression on defense. And then the close game factor too. I think they had 9 games decided by 1 score last year. Got to think some of those go into the W column this year, which probably puts them back into consideration for top 25 if the quarterback works out. So USC at Oregon, we'll know a lot more about both teams by then.
I'm so proud of your season finale pick. Which you all listening don't know. I know because I can tell exactly which one it's going to be.
Yep.
And I love it. I actually did it a whole entire second time, the whole exercise, just to put that game as my number 1 game to start with that. And I got a great answer too. I just was like, no, I'm going to go back to this one. But I know where you're going in the final week. I love everything about the USC Oregon matchup. The problem is it might be a blowout. Like I just don't know how good USC is going to be at that point. USC is a team I struggle with. It's kind of like Florida State. I really wanted to see them, but I just didn't know how much weight to put on them. Like Wisconsin's the same way. I love Wisconsin, but it's like I didn't know if I really wanted to see Wisconsin this year. There's a lot of teams like that. I was more interested in like Nebraska and Auburn and Baylor than I was in USC, which is kind of odd. But that's a great uniform game between those two. We'll call it the DeAnthony Thomas Bowl. That's a deep dive. This one has no ranked teams. My only game with no ranked teams of the whole year, and it was shoehorned in because I can't do this exercise without going to watch my Jackets play in Atlanta. And it's not the best game for Georgia Tech. It's not the premier matchup. It's not the one I want to go to. The one I want to go to is Clemson at Georgia Tech in week 3. So I could have done that, but that ruined my. I wanted to go to A&M Notre Dame instead. But Clemson at Georgia Tech, I think Atlanta's going to be crazy. Pittsburgh at Georgia Tech, week number 13. My Jackets at home. I think that stadium and that building are so underrated. I've gone to a game there. It's great. It's a really fun place to go. And it's very strange because you look around and it's just like a giant metropolitan area around this like beautiful little campus, you know? And so it's just, I think it's a very underrated stadium. What is it? The second oldest stadium in all of college football behind Mississippi State, I think. So just I think it's super underrated. And, it may not be a great game. They could destroy Pittsburgh, but I needed to go see my Jackets. So I will admit that this is one of my only charming picks of the year.
I don't think that that's like a bad pick at all, though. I mean, we talked about Pittsburgh on our, earlier this offseason. What if that Pittsburgh's, health, having better health from Eli Holston and Desmond Reed results in maybe them being a sleeper? Also, I mean, what if Georgia Tech's in the mix to play for the ACC championship?
Okay, let me
I
ask you
think
that. Let me ask
they
you
will.
this. Let me ask you this. I could go Georgia Tech at Duke because the other one I really want was Virginia Tech at Georgia Tech. But I could go Georgia Tech at Duke, 2 teams last week we talked about, top 5, top 6 in the conference. And then I would miss out on Texas Tech and Arizona State. But then I could come back in this exact same week and I could go Arizona State at Colorado. So would you rather see Georgia Tech at Duke and Arizona State, Colorado? Or do you think the picks I made were better? Texas Tech and Arizona State, Pittsburgh at Georgia Tech. But you got to pick both of them, right? It's a two game combo. Which one's better?
I might lean the first one because you get to Boulder, right?
Yeah, Arizona State at Colorado and Georgia Tech at Duke. I like Atlanta way better than going to Durham, for the record.
Yeah.
But it is it's a better game potentially, Georgia Tech at Duke.
Yeah. That's a tough one. That's
just not ready to put Duke. Duke is,
even.
I can't put Duke into like I gotta see Duke. Even if they're really good, it's just hard to like put them in that list.
They are on the list of interesting teams though, with Mensah at quarterback and how good they were in defense. So you can't go wrong.
You would vote Arizona. You'd vote Boulder and Durham instead of Atlanta and Texas Tech at Arizona State's. It's a pretty big game.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
I don't know. I don't know. You might be right. Texas Tech at Arizona State's a pretty.
And then I would not ever see Texas Tech this year.
Okay.
I gotta see the Fighting Red Raiders.
I think you got to stick with Arizona State, Texas Tech.
All right. Week 14. Tell everybody where you're going.
Clemson at South Carolina. We've talked about the different variations here. I hated to miss Ohio State at Michigan. Like I said, it's like pretty much a staple for me. But given how just this rivalry, also last year's game, Lenore Sellers and the Heroics, what's in store for this year? It's in Columbia. We'll see if Sellers and Klubnik are trading punches for 4 quarters, or if it's a lower scoring defensive game like we saw last year. So love the rivalry. Love the atmosphere, the stadium, the quarterbacks, everything about this. So switching it up and going to Clemson at South Carolina this year.
Like I said at the beginning of the show, this week is so much better this year than it ever has been, at least on paper at this time of year. And that game could be the biggest Clemson South Carolina game ever played. And that is not hyperbolic. That is like like I could make the case Clemson's number 1 at that time. And you can make the case that South Carolina's like number 6. And it is possible that this is the most important game ever played in a series where these two teams, the vitriol between these two teams is off the charts. Especially when the game ended last year with Sellers doing what he did in that game. Holy smokes. Clemson then makes the playoff and South Carolina doesn't. It's so good. It's so good. So I'm with you on this one. Now I'm going to the Iron Bowl. I try to avoid the Iron Bowl and try to avoid Ohio State, Michigan, but sometimes it's just calling your name. And I put Ohio State, Michigan in there first, and I played with it a little bit. I didn't love it. Then I wanted to go to the first two games of the season with Ohio State and Michigan, and I tried the Clemson, South Carolina thing, and I'm like, you know what, though? I think this also has a chance to be one of the most impactful and insane Iron Bowls. Not because they're two teams that are going to win a national championship, but because either coach could be on the hot seat going into this game, anything happens in the Iron Bowl when it's on the road. I think Auburn is going to be one of the biggest storylines of the season. Like I am planting a flag on Auburn will be much, much better than people realize. And so at home, Kalen DeBoer's coaching career on the line, Hugh Freeze's coaching career on the line. I don't know what else could be on the line. I doubt a playoff spot, but it's possible for at least Alabama, maybe for both. 10-2 is not out of the question for Auburn if everything goes their way. So I'm at the Iron Bowl week 14. And that means I have seen 21 ranked teams, and you have seen 18 ranked teams. So I win that battle. You missed Illinois, SMU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Boise State. Why do you hate the Big 12?
I
And
love the Big 12.
well, you missed Texas Tech and Iowa State, and SMU is
Yeah.
basically a Big 12 team. I missed 4. I missed SMU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Boise State, which raises a question. We both missed the exact same 4 teams: SMU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Boise. Certainly, that is a function of their schedule, but also it means that you and I didn't prioritize those 4 teams. How about this? What do all 4 of those teams have in common?
A lot of things, but which variation do you want to go with here?
All 4 of them are taking a major step back this year.
True. Yeah.
3 of them made the playoff, and Ole Miss almost did. And all 4 of them are trending not badly as a program, but none of them will be as good as they were last year. And I'm curious if that was back of our mind unintentionally as we were doing this exercise, where I was prioritizing Clemson and Miami and Louisville, and I was prioritizing Texas A&M and Oklahoma and like other more interesting games than I was Ole Miss or Tennessee. Just worth mentioning.
It is interesting. I mean, I could also make the case like those teams are also interesting for different reasons, and we've kind of we can get into those later this summer in some of our conference deep dives. But yeah, I mean, there's like Nebraska was like one team I really wanted to see, and it didn't work out. But there was like Michigan State at Nebraska on one of the weeks, and I was thinking, this is the only chance I might get to see Nebraska. I might have to make it work. So
you could do that right now. You could swap out Air Force and Navy and put in Michigan State and Nebraska. You could do that right now.
I thought about it, but I'm going to stick with my Air Force at Navy game.
I would go Michigan State at Nebraska. You could do Colorado TCU.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't pick either one of them. You could do Texas Tech at Houston.
I did those. Yeah, those were all definitely on my list for week 6.
Here's the other one I almost picked Washington at Wisconsin because I really wanted to see Washington. And actually the one to see Washington, I think, is at home at the end of the year against Oregon. I think that's the one that you want to see because just a great rivalry game. And I think Washington will be much, much better at the end of the year as all those pieces come together.
Agree. Yeah,
Washington's one of the unranked teams that I really was upset that I didn't see.
Were they the team that you were most upset to miss, or
no? I mean, the alma mater is hard to be honest about. You know, like I take my daughters to see the alma mater every year, so like not seeing them this exercise is kind of like it makes it fictional. it kind of like it like breaks the fourth wall or whatever's happening. I mean, Ole Miss is on that list. I didn't get to see Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a big one. I mean, SMU. I mean, all the ranked teams that are good. Honestly, it's Baylor, Nebraska. Baylor, Nebraska are 2 of them on the top of the list of teams that I wish I would have seen. Those are probably the top 2.
I think for me, it's Nebraska, Illinois, and Ole Miss.
Yeah,
just to be able to see like Austin Simmons for Ole Miss, Dylan Raiola for Nebraska, and then Illinois, just team strength this year potentially.
Yep, I agree. All right, man. Happy 4th of July, dude. You got any big plans?
No.
You gonna let the 18-month-old walk around with Roman candles?
Well, I think she's dangerous enough when she can get into anything in the house. So probably need to limit anything and everything we can. So no, nothing. We're gonna keep her far away from everything. But
no. They need to be more feral. Put your kids outside. Tell them to survive. That's how they learn to live in this world.
She's been outside quite a bit recently.
Just let her play outside. Just put her out there. Just let her go.
She loves it.
They need to be feral outside. They need to run around and run the neighborhood. They do. The outside world is so much safer than you realize. You know what's really dangerous? Your cell phone. That's
Right.
what's dangerous to them.
This is true. But no,
Oh
no
man.
plans. Happy 4th of July to everybody. Thanks as always for everybody for listening each and every week. We really appreciate it.
I don't know why I started like ranting about parenting at the end. I apologize. Happy 4th of July. Make sure all your fingers and toes are coming back next weekend. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
We
Go
got this
America. Go America.
we got a lot of college football ground to cover. We need everybody focused and locked in the rest of the year.
That is correct. All right, everybody. Happy 4th of July. Be safe out there. Play with fireworks, but do it responsibly. That's right. From your dad. My name is Braden Gall. Thanks for listening. Rate, review, subscribe, thumbs up, notifications on the YouTube page. We do appreciate it no matter how you consume it. Give us 5 stars, because if you do not give us 5 stars, you are a
Hater.
Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.